Hey everyone, welcome back. Last time we explored part 2 of The Shy Beauty and the Billionaire Beast, a story full of mystery, emotion, and unexpected sparks. And today we're diving deeper into the journey, where the tension builds, secrets unfold, and the chemistry gets even stronger. Let's continue the tale of Beauty and the Beast, only this time the stakes are even higher.
On us PNT of view. Ever since that day when Jackson teased me until Sonia came to help me, I found it easy for my mind to wander to dangerous grounds, where fantasies of Jackson and me vividly lived in my mind. My stay at his castle was more pleasing than I expected, though. Sonia and the rest of his staff were very friendly, and Stuart wasn't so bad after I spent a few weeks getting to know him. The bald eagle and I seem to have an understanding. I stay out of his way, and it's a good day for everyone. Jackson, out of pure boredom, often teases me, but whenever he wanted to have some real fun, given that I've rejected him every time, he would go out and come home with a different lady friend every time. Stuart and I started forming a friendship. He was a total goof, but there were times where he could be really sweet. It became easy for Stuart and me to joke around. He was very down to earth, and though Hez always carrying a weapon, it didn't bother me that much to be around him, as crazy as that may sound. Turns out him and I connected well with each other. We usually spent our weekend days just hanging out, unless he was out doing things for Jackson. We were currently sitting in the living room, watching the Jurassic Park trilogy and stuffing our faces with popcorn. "Can you stop hogging all the popcorn?" asked Stuart as he reached over in hope of reaching the large bowl of popcorn. "Not if you keep grabbing handfuls of it every 5 seconds. I retorted, pulling the bowl away from him, as my eyes stayed glued on the T-Rex that hunted the speeding Jeep, and its 3 preys in it. "You know if I want the popcorn, I can get it effortlessly, right?" stated Stuart almost smugly. "I'm not afraid of you," I reminded him. "So you say," he said with a smirk. "Yes, I do say," I replied, then started laughing. My shy demeanor often vanished whenever Stuart was around, but the minute Jackson walked into the room, I felt the atmosphere change, and my wall went up. "I wasn't sure I brought you here to laze around my home," he simply stated, as he poured himself some scotch, then sat down in an armchair next to the sofa that Stuart and I sat on. "Come on, man, don't be like that. Her and I were just having some fun," defended Stuart as he placed his arm around my shoulder. Though his actions were comforting, the death glare I got from Jackson terrified me. "Yes, well, given that her debt has not yet been paid off, I'd rather she was treated like someone that owes me, rather than someone that is on my level. So if you would please escort her to her room," he dismissed, as his words sent a knife through my heart. Who the heck did he think he was? "Excuse me?" My mouth spoke before I told it to. "Listen here, buddy, just because you own a Porsche, yet have a chauffeur and a limo doesn't make you better than me," I fired, with no intention of stopping. "You're a jerk and a heartless pig. If it bothers you so much to have me around, you can send me home, and I'll live in the comfort of my personal space." I stood up, placing my hands on my hips, though I was secretly petrified on the inside. He stared my way in a bored manner, replying with a no-can-do. Then he continued with his dismissal. "Stuart?" I didn't even let Stuart stand. I turned with a scoff and roll of my eyes, and headed straight to the room. However, I didn't even get a chance to close the door. Jackson barged in next after me, then closed us in. "Get out," I stated. "Get out. I don't want you in here," I yelled again, as I pushed him, my anger fueling my courage. "Let me make something very clear," he approached me with a low tone. "This is my house, another step, and my rules. You're hardly an employee, so I suggest you get in line, sweetheart, because until these 3 months are over, you are under my control." He pointed my way and kept moving towards me. I blindly moved backwards, my fear forcing me to keep my eyes locked on him. That was the agreement. Either you do what I say, or you can lay on that bed, take up my second offer, and get the hell out of my house, he stated darkly, as he finally closed the gap between us, my knees knocking against the bed. I had to raise my hands to steady myself and keep from plopping onto the bed. The color of his eyes glistened with anger, yet those blue pools were so mesmerizing, hypnotizing even. He knew he had me cornered, given that I would never sleep with him, especially not after he constantly played with me, just to remind me that I wasn't his type. I felt myself grow hot in frustration. I wanted to hurt him, and yet at the same time I wanted to curl up in a ball and cry. He angered me so much, I found my hand flying towards his cheek, but he had good reflexes. Because he caught my hand seconds away from his face, I tried with the other hand, and he also caught it. I struggled against his hold, and he smirked knowing that I couldn't get away. He just loved it when he had me helpless and vulnerable. Jackson knew how to get under my skin, and he knew how to get me to that place where I would try to fight him, even when I knew I wouldn't win. I thought to knee him where the sun doesn't shine, but he locked my knee in between his legs, then slammed our bodies on the bed. He pinned me down while laying one of his legs in between my open ones. Shocked at our position, I tried to move, but the struggle only allowed for my skirt to ride up, and for Jackson to nest more of his body in between my legs. My stomach started doing somersaults as Jackson's eyes darkened. "I want to have you," he simply stated in a low tone. His words caused my cheeks to inflame, and for my breath to pick up, causing my chest to constantly rub against his torso. My hands were still pinned above my head, as Jackson supported himself, then he started rubbing his legs softly against my entrance, back and forth, back and forth. The friction sent quick and continuous jolts from all over my body straight to my uterus, and vice versa. My breathing picked up, as Jackson softly pressed his lips against my neck. He kissed from the base of my neck, to under my ear, to my cheeks, and then the corner of my lips. "Will you let me?" he asked against my lips in a soft whisper, as his lips danced against my skin. He always knew just how to play with me. His nose rubbed my cheek, his lips kissing my skin ever so softly. But before I found myself falling for his tricks, I was reminded of what would come next if I let my guard down. The game he was playing with my body was very convincing, but it was still a game. "No," I said firmly. He chuckled, then bit my bottom lip. He tugged it, then released it, and on instinct I licked my bottom lip. He slightly pulled back and kissed the top of my chest. Then he looked into my eyes, "Say yes." He told me, then landed another feather-like kiss on my chest. "Let me have you." He caressed the soft skin of my cleavage with his lips just this once. He added, then kissed my skin again. "Let me have you." Then he looked up at me, his eyes drowning in lust. Oh, he knew how to make my body want his, but that's the thing, I would just be another toy for him, something to pass his time. "No," I repeated. He looked slightly appalled at my rejection. "I think you should go," I stated, my eyes piercing his. "Anas plenty of view." "I think you should go," I said once again, as Jackson stared at me confused. But it wasn't because of what I said. I think he was trying to figure out how I managed to still say no to him. He shook his head, then his body was off mine. He didn't say a word, and he headed to the door. He turned back to look at me, as he opened his mouth to say something, but then he decided to go against it, and instead he opened the door and left. With a breath of relief, I shook my head in order to clear my mind from the images of Jackson and I that currently haunted me. Hopefully now, he knew I was serious. The next morning, I didn't come in contact with Jackson. Around the evening after our encounter yesterday, he left the mansion, and I wasn't sure if he had come back. Throughout the day, he was nowhere to be found, and that was fine by me. Once the afternoon rolled in, a knock came from the door. "It's open," I stated, and the door flew open as Stuart walked in all dramatic. He signaled me to be quiet, as his eyes suddenly became alert. "Stuart? Is everything okay?" "Shh." He suddenly cut me off. "There's someone in the house," he whispered, then he signaled for me to come towards him. Alert and slightly worried, I quietly got off the bed and made my way towards him. He grabbed my hand and pulled me closer. Then he tiptoed toward the door and had me stand behind him. Then he peeped out the door and sharply pulled back in, closing the door behind him. "What?" I mouthed to him. "Heads down the hall," he whispered quietly, and my heart jumped to my throat. Then Stuart looked at me. He cocked his head to the side, then he busted into laughter. He leaned onto his knees as he kept on laughing. "Oh, I got you so good," he said between laughter, and that's when it clicked in. It was a prank. "You jerk," I said, and turned away from him. Get out, I said angry. "Oh, come on, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you, but I just couldn't pass up the opportunity." He straightened himself up and made his way towards me. He pulled me in for a hug, but I didn't reciprocate. He pulled away and pouted at me as he batted his eyelashes in order to appear cute and I couldn't hold it. I began to laugh. "See, I knew you couldn't stay mad at me forever," he stated. Then he hugged me again, and I hugged him back. "All right, come on," he said as he pulled my hand. "Where are we going?" I asked, following him out of my room and out of the mansion. "To shoot some hoops," he stated, as he grabbed a basketball that laid on the soft grass. I shrugged at his suggestion and followed him to a basketball court that sat well in the mansion's backyard. We joked around on the court for hours, and though I tried, I kept missing the basket. Frustrated, I threw the ball on the ground with a grunt, but it only bounced up and away. Stuart laughed and jogged up to me, all sexy and hot and all. I found myself blushing as he approached. He ran by me and picked up the ball, then he came back and handed it to me. "No, get that slimy and filthy thing away from me. We were never meant to cross paths," I declared, my eyes glaring at the basketball that laid flat in Stuart's hand. "We are looking at the same thing, right?" joked Stuart, and I rolled my eyes looking away as a smile crept on my lips. "Here," said Stuart, as he suddenly came to stand behind me. He wrapped his arms around my own and placed the ball in my hands. "You have to stand with your feet staggered," he explained, as he placed his hands on my hips, and with his foot in between my feet, he knocked them apart until he was pleased with my position. I could feel his body against mine, and my heart just wouldn't slow down. "Now," he said, his voice a bit lower than before, "bend your knees," he nearly whispered, as his breath tickled my ear and his lips shadowed against my skin, causing me to slightly shiver. I found myself lowering my body as his body mirrored mine. His hands lifted off my waist and caressed the length of my arms, from my shoulders to my hands. My lips remained opened, my breathing picked up its pace, and goosebumps grew above my skin. His large hands engulfed mine as his warmth and body enveloped me. Then I felt his body spring up, along with mine, and we shot the ball. The ball jiggled through the net, and I smiled in glee. "See," said Stuart, and I once again became cautious of his body close behind me. "All you have to do is try," he stated then. With his hands on my hips, he guided me to turn and face him. His cocoa brown eyes stared into mine, before they slowly drifted to my parted lips, causing me to lick mine in anticipation, as his tongue mirrored my actions. "Can I try something?" he asked, his voice breathy. I could barely muster words, so with a soft nod I gave him consent. He moved his right hand from my hips and placed it on my cheek, his thumb tracing my bottom lip. He stepped closer, and his torso was aligned with my softly heaving chest. Then he leaned down. I waited for that split second where my lips would meet his own, but it never happened. For just as I could taste the shadow of his lips on mine, out of nowhere, the sprinklers came on, stunning us awake from our trance as we ran towards the house for cover. Just as I entered, my eyes flashed to the top window facing the court, and there stood Jackson, staring dead back at me, and for some reason I knew he had something to do with it. Once we were sheltered inside the house, my shy demeanor took over as Stuart turned to look at me. "Are you okay?" he asked, and I blushed, looking away. He chuckled and pulled me into his arms as he planted a soft kiss against my cheek. Then he whispered, "Let's do this again sometime." And before I could reply, he was gone. I sighed and giggled like a schoolgirl, but my moment of happiness was short-lived. As I looked up on the stairs, Jackson glared down at me, then he turned and left.